The statement came in from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel, and I just wondered, this is an official letter. They're very serious people, as you know. The devastating U.S. strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated. We assess that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons for many years to come. This achievement can continue indefinitely if Iran does not get access to nuclear material, which it won't. And the New York Times, they put out a story that, well, maybe they were hit, but it wasn't bad. Well, it was so bad that they ended the war. It ended the war. Somebody said in a certain way, it was so devastating, actually. If you look at Hiroshima, if you look at Nagasaki, you know, that ended a war too. This ended a war in a different way, but it was so devastating.
You just cited Israeli intelligence on these attacks. Earlier you said U.S. intelligence was inconclusive. Are you relying on Israeli intelligence for your assessment of the impact of the strikes?
No, this is also, Iran made the statement, and it's also, if you read the document that was given, that Pete can talk about if you'd like, the document said it could be very severe damage, but they didn't take that. They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know, other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe. And you didn't choose to put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated.
Expecting some on-the-ground assessments at Fordo and other sites. Is that Israeli and U.S.?
It's been obliterated, Kelly.
What is your message then, sir, to the intelligence community when they present reports? You're not disputing the DIA report. You're just...
They presented a report that wasn't finished. We're talking about something that took place 3 days ago.
I understand that, sir.
The report was done
so
2 days ago. Wait a minute.
Yes.
They didn't see it. All they can do is take a guess. Now, if you take a look at the pictures, if you take a look how it's all blackened, you know the fire and brimstone is all underground because it's granite and it's all underground. You don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire. The group that's run by this gentleman, in fact, you may want to talk about it for a second because we're going to issue a report. And I think it's not even a very exciting report at this point. It's been obliterated, totally obliterated. And they did a report, but it was like, if you look at the dates, it's just a few days after it
Understood,
happened.
sir.
So they didn't see it. They said it may be very severe.
Understood. Do you have a message for the intelligence community, though, in terms of unvarnished information getting to you, that it's not...
I don't really have a message. I would say issue the report when you know what happened. I wouldn't say that it could be severe or maybe not. They use the word severe. It could be severe or maybe it's not. So people like you picked up and said, oh, it's not severe. No, the report was not a complete report.
So Donald Trump and all of his MAGA minions, many of his MAGA minions, I guess I should say, have been lying to the country for days. They have lied to all of us over and over and over again.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated.
We have obliterated the Iranian nuclear program.
We are confident, yes, that Iran's nuclear sites were completely and totally obliterated.
Iran's nuclear program has been completely and totally obliterated. I feel like maybe they had a note card that said obliterated on it and they gave it to all those people and made them say it. Who knows? But that was the message from the Trump administration since Saturday night. Clearly, that's what they kept saying over and over and over again. Even, by the way, as top members of the military, including high-ranking people within this administration, were saying it was too early to make an assessment. Because it was too early to make an assessment. And now here are the headlines from this afternoon. Here's one from CNN. Early U.S. intel assessments suggest strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites. From the New York Times, strikes set back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months, U.S. report says. That's according to an initial classified intelligence assessment, which reportedly found that the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, quote, did not collapse their underground buildings, and set back Iran's nuclear program by only a few months. In fact, from all this reporting, a lot of it came out this afternoon, it turns out that much of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was moved before the strikes, which destroyed little of the nuclear material. In our own reporting, NBC News put an even finer point on it, saying, quote, an initial assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency concludes that the U.S. airstrikes conducted over the weekend on Iran's nuclear enrichment sites were not as effective as Donald Trump said. To state the obvious, claiming you obliterated Iran's nuclear program doesn't make it so, and it's something that people then assess, including the military. But for Trump, it's always about the one day of headlines, the one-word slogan, claiming victory right off the bat, about obfuscation and defiance being prioritized over facts. And that will continue, I expect, to be in the face of these new facts. Take, for example, the statement released today by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Here's what she had to say. This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. Whew, there's a lot to unpack there. Couple questions here. If the assessment is flat out wrong, why was it classified as top secret, as she also characterized it? And if it's top secret, why do low-level losers, as she called them, have access to it? Lots of questions there. Her statement obviously makes no sense. Of course it doesn't. But we see this cycle constantly. Donald Trump says something, facts and reality say something else, and then his people have to kind of twist themselves into knots trying to explain why he's right and we're all apparently crazy, though we're not. I mean, it was just yesterday that Trump announced that he had brokered a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. In fact, he was so confident in his negotiation skills that he told NBC News, quote, I think the ceasefire is unlimited. It's going to go forever. I don't believe they will ever be shooting at each other again. But that statement had a shelf life of a few hours, because Israel and Iran started firing at each other overnight, just a few hours after he said that. Even Trump couldn't deny that reality. And the embarrassment that his ceasefire wasn't as forever as he had hoped, and all those big feelings, apparently, prompted him to drop an F-bomb on the White House lawn this morning.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Well, someone is a little cranky today, it seems. But that was the pure unvarnished reaction you get when Trump cannot spin away the truth. When facts on the ground make it impossible for him just to declare victory and kind of walk away. And we can expect to see more of it. Because Trump's spin on these Iran strikes keeps falling apart every day. I mean, for days now, Trump has been contradicting his own intelligence chiefs, saying that Iran was suddenly closer than ever to obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's what he said. That's what he said started this war in the first place. But as the Washington Post reveals, Netanyahu's decision to strike Iran had been in the works for months, even before Trump was elected, and was more kind of a strike of opportunity than a strike of necessity. I mean, the Post reports that when Netanyahu finally launched a surprise attack on Iran, the decision was not so much driven by new intelligence indicating an Iranian sprint for a nuclear weapon or any imminent threat to Israel. Rather, Israel seized on what it saw as a unique opportunity to execute plans carefully laid months and even years in advance. In other words, the urgency of the attack had nothing to do with brand new intelligence about Iran's nuclear program. Israel just needed a pretext to carry out the attack they had already planned, that Netanyahu had been having dreams about for years, and a potentially willing partner in the White House to help them do it. See, Trump wants people to believe that Iran was on the brink of obtaining a nuclear weapon, of having one to use, and that he stopped them just in time by obliterating Iran's nuclear program. He thinks he can tell the American people whatever story he wants, that we're all just going to follow him like the MAGA lemmings do, not going to read the fine print, not going to learn anymore. The American people can see what is going on. They don't like it. Of course they don't. I mean, a new CNN poll out today finds that a majority of Americans disapprove of Trump's decision to strike Iran by a 12-point margin. People are not buying what Trump is selling.
You've made clear your position on what impact the strikes had. I wanted to ask you what is next with Iran. For instance, is there any indication from U.S. intelligence that Iran was able to move any material?
No, just the opposite. We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move. And if you knew about that material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move. It's called, in many people they call it dust, but it's very, very heavy. It's very, very hard to move. And they were way down, they're 30 stories down. They're literally 30, 35 stories down underground. Oh yeah, we think it's covered with granite, concrete, and steel.
Can I ask you, are you interested in restarting negotiations with Iran? And if so, have they reciprocated?
So our people, Marco could answer this, but our people are not. I'm not. The way I look at it, they fought. The war's done, and I could get a statement that they're not going to go nuclear. We're probably going to ask for that, but they're not going to be doing it. But they're not going to be doing it anyway. They've had it. Now maybe someday in the future we'll want that. But I've asked Marco, do you want to draw? I just asked him the question as we were walking on the stage. Do you want to draw up a little agreement for them to sign? Because I think we can get them to sign it. I don't think it's necessary. I'll tell you what. Look, we're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that necessary. I mean, they had a war, they fought. Now they're going back to their world. I don't care if I have an agreement or not. The only thing we'd be asking for is what we were asking for before about we want no nuclear, but we destroyed the nuclear. In other words, that's destroyed. I said Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up. To kingdom come. And so I don't feel very strongly about it. We got a document, wouldn't be bad. We're going to meet with them, actually. We're going to meet with them.